Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for coming, Ryan. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Nice to speak with you.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
You're the first like other person that's not like in a band, or like here as a band anyway that we've interviewed. We usually interview kind of bands and stuff, but so this is a very different experience for us. So very cool.
Well, we're
Same.
gonna talk shop here.
Yeah, this is shop talk, right? That's what this is. That do this kind of thing. So all right. So let's get started then. Where do we got here?
Okay. I kind of wanted to talk about the list first, just because it's like, it's buzzing. It's hot right now. Everyone's talking about lists. It's list time.
Yeah.
I like your list. I like it a lot. I like the top 4 is a very exciting ride. Like Sears Ungle have a crew eternal champion. We're like, all right. This is like epic heavy metal, folk metal, good stuff, good times, Afterbirth.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was weird. Like I noticed that like the ones I gravitated to, like the strongest, were very like epic, like triumphant things. I just kind of needed a lot of that this year.
So would you qualify Afterbirth as triumphant? And
maybe
maybe
I don't know. It's not quite as abrasive as most brutal death metal, though. There is like a melodiousness to it.
Yeah, I feel like I attempted to listen to Afterbirth. I think I might give it another go on your very strong recommendation here. But yeah, it's definitely not my normal thing. But they've got like a few like riffs, like whenever they stop and they just like riff a little bit, I'm like, all right. And then they go into some weird syncopated stuff. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Abrasivity is what we know is on our scale as sonic terror, and
it's a 5.
It's not a bad thing, it's just
5.5 anyway. But
it's a certain kind of sound.
I like your list. It goes, it's got like that brutal, technical kind of death metal. We've got to like raw black metal to power metal. So like, what can you tell us? Like, how did you get here? Hard to narrow down to this.
I usually kind of go with my gut. Like I'll keep a running list throughout the year of like a few things that I need to remember to go back to, because it's not stuff I was excited about dropping or whatever, and kind of came across it. And then I forget about that for a few months, and then at the end of the year, scramble, put a list together, try to just again go off gut, make a rough order, and then I listen in reverse order, and it's usually about 40 or 50 albums, and then rank accordingly from there, then re-listen and kind of come up with a final ranking, and then change it like 2 days before it publishes.
Of course. Yeah, mine was changing very frequently the last few days. But it's interesting. I think that Have a Crew album actually kind of defined how my list went, because it's like, for me, it's like that's like a very objectively good album, but I'm not a huge folk metal person. And it's like, it was hard to deny the album, and it's like I wanted to put it on the list, but I couldn't, but it also wasn't my favorite at the same time. So I was like, only favorites. This is the defining decision. Yeah. Only favorites. Don't care about quality, only favorites.
And what was those favorites out of? What was your total number again?
Of what?
Of all the bands that were potentially.
Oh, well, I was working off like 100 that I narrowed down. But I mean, yeah, it was really at the end of the day, like the top 20. It's only like maybe 50 albums really competing for that. But I don't know. But yeah, awesome album year-end list. So props for that.
Thank you.
But yeah, but how we get to here is, is reviewing. You review for Last Rites.
Yes. Yep.
How did you
LastRites.com.
Yes. How long have you been with them?
This is going to be my third year end list, so 3 years, because I started January 4 years ago. So.
How do you get involved with something like that?
Honestly, through Twitter. I was writing for a smaller publication, like kind of a little indie deal. I mean, this is still indie, but and Manny reached out and was like, "Hey, you still writing?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to write over here?" And I was excited for it because it was one of the sites I actually read.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, they're a bit of an institution. Definitely one of my favorite metal blogs. So, like, when you write a review, you write typically pretty long, in-depth reviews, no scores. So, like, how did you come to this approach? Like that's like standard for last rites, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We're kind of known for being long-winded.
Yeah.
Which is kind of counterintuitive, given like the climate these days. People want like real quick, like 1-2 line reviews on Bandcamp and things like that. But we kind of do it because we all feel like there's something that needs to be said about what we're writing about. Like choosing what we're reviewing is a huge part of it. And that's part of the reason we don't really include number scores. Like if we're covering it, it's unless we're straight up trashing it, which we rarely do. It's pretty much an endorsement based on that.
Yeah. With our writing, we don't ever trash anything. I mean, we're not going to really put anything on that we don't like.
I guess I don't see the point.
Yeah. I mean, why really kind of get in that, you get into like a negative light with people if you do that,
Why are you wasting time listening to something you don't like, first of all?
Right.
Yeah. I think that's
the first question.
I think that's mostly the reason why we kind of avoid like super like mainstream bands. Cause I'm not saying like mainstream things aren't good. Just like, but we might be less likely to like them, I guess. I don't know. What do you think? Like maybe we wouldn't review like a Testament album or something. No, we don't have a problem with Testament or something.
I think we did.
Did we do Testament?
Well,
but
you shouldn't look at it. Our review process has been very organic and evolving.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And new. So
but I do like the way y'all do your scales, where it's like, okay, we're more describing what to expect and casting out a net, and then people that like that sort of thing pick up on like, oh, these are elements that I enjoy, like I should check this out, versus just like this is good, this is bad.
Yeah, we came up with that. That kind of evolved for a while, like the two-sided scale. It's kind of like a yin and yang scale. Like no side is either good or bad. It's kind of equality in each way, but
it's kind of like the opposite of like the last rights approach, where you're like writing kind of like the record on the review, like this should be like in the history book of this review, but like, and we're more of like the dumb person, like what can we say to somebody to make them want to listen to this, which I think we're trying to refine and make better. So like, I guess more specifically, what would I need to hear to make me want to listen to something? And just these scales, people like visuals. I like visuals.
We're looking for.
So things that would appeal to me, I'm trying to do, but yeah, we're attempting to evolve it. But yeah, I think just describing the music and not trying to focus on like objective good is it's its own approach. So
one of the criteria was, of course, too many notes or too little notes. That's the name of our review. It's called the Too Many Notes Review.
We need to drop that. I think it's just a gimmick.
We decided to call it that because we kind of have this sort of love of the movie Amadeus. And I don't know if you remember that movie, but there's one scene where the king is like too many notes, like because he couldn't just handle the music. And it's kind of like me sometimes. I'm like, it's too many notes. I used to always say that.
Yes.
So, from that movie.
Whenever I play him anything,
I'm like, too many notes. Too many notes. So yeah, that's kind of where that came about.
And I guess y'all didn't like the Autognosis album then.
No, I actually did like it. I actually did like that album. It'll probably be in my, 20 to 30. But I don't know. It was just like, again, like my top 20, it was just like weird things I formed attachments to, and for some reason I just didn't attach to that as hard as to some other things. But
I think Sam is more tolerant to too many notes than I am these days.
I
think you're more tolerant.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think that autonoesis. I don't know.
I assume it's Autognosis.
Like I think that is like better than a lot, like some of the stuff I put on my list. But I decided not to worry about that.
Yeah. There's definitely albums that I could have included on my list that are like maybe objectively better. Like the new Enslaved album's incredible, but also it's like it didn't hit me like a lot of their other works do, or it just didn't feel right. So just like go with the gut.
Yeah, like if it's not like it has to be like exactly to my taste, and also like please me in some like way that I can't describe, and that's how it ends up there. But okay, yeah. So. As we're sitting here, you mentioned you want to talk about the role of the review in the modern era. What are we doing here and why?
Yeah, which is kind of a good question.
You seem kind of down on it when you posed it. So.
Well, it's I wouldn't say down. It's just something I'm constantly thinking about. It's like, why am I doing this? Like, again, like people can just go and stream something and hear it and know if they want to buy it or not. Like it's kind of like the writing or journalism or whatever you want to call it is not nearly as important as it was like in the zine days. It's like, but we're still doing it.
I don't know. I think regardless of like what you write, I think like just the act of highlighting these bands is very positive and good. Like you could ask, are people really, appreciating what I wrote, or just the fact that I wrote about this band and getting excited about that? Like,
Right.
Is no one watching a video we make? But they might be like, oh, they made a video about this band. I'm not gonna watch it, but now like that band's in my brain for no reason.
Right. Like it's definitely exposure.
So.
Regardless.
I like the fact that we're mostly kind of concentrating on, like, some of the bands we concentrate are literally like one-man bands that just literally made an album in their living room. And, they have a decent presence. Yeah. And they have a decent presence on like Spotify or something. They're not like completely unknown. But, I like the fact that we're giving guys like that attention, and they're very responsive to it. They're very receptive to, and very grateful a lot of times, that we found them. And that's I think that's the best thing we're doing, I think, and that's what I want to do, is just find these like completely just obscure acts. That's really.
And I think that's kind of the core of it, is like, we do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
We enjoy doing it. Yeah.
I mean, for me, like, I actually personally hate writing.
Yeah, so I think we don't want to do that.
That's why I've never, gotten into reviewing on any kind of real scale.
Yes.
And but I was like, oh, let's make these shit.
Yeah. I used to do it, but
I'm this is fun for me. But
I used to write for I used to do concert reviews, like photography and concert reviews, and I used to have to write. And, and if I liked the band, obviously I'd be into it. But there was a lot of times when I was simply sent to look at a band that I couldn't give a shit about. Maybe it wasn't even a metal band. And I just really just went through the motions, just made the most uninteresting review ever. And, I kind of got tired of it. It's just, I started doing a podcast, a few years ago. And, but
I don't know. I think also for reviewers now, like, I think like it's almost like you're a curator as well. Like I can go on Last Rights and read all your reviews and have a good idea, because like you have, even though your list here is diverse, it's got kind of a commonality to it, I would say. Like, like someone could be like, oh, I like Ryan's picks usually. Where if you go to like a larger metal site, who knows who's reviewing it, or maybe I just don't pay attention to the reviewers there because they're asked to review like Testament and they have to do it. And so like you can kind of act as like this very like, I don't know, bespoke curator for underground metal, which I think a small community in metal appreciates. I mean, I appreciate it certainly. Like I saw you said like, oh, I love that Witch Tower. I was like, actually, I think I found that from you. So
it's a great album.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a good reason to do it. Also, like, because like, you're reviewing mostly underground stuff. Like, yeah, like anyone could find it, but just finding underground stuff is difficult, a lot of time, because there's so much, and you're doing the waiting out and like finding the treasure, basically
trying to be the lighthouse.
Yeah. And 99% of people aren't interested in doing that. They're into new music. So I think I'd say it's a good service.
It's a great point.
Did you grow up reading zines?
Me? Yeah. Oh, me?
Oh,
yes.
Oh, yeah. There was
either of you.
There was his local zine around here by the name of Grimoire of Exalted Deeds. I don't know if you heard of it. I don't know if it got out to where you are, but basically, the guy. That's how I like learned about. I'm talking about 1990s here. That's how I learned about like what black metal was and death metal was. In a world when you're in the 90s, where I'm listening to like when all I knew was like Metallica or something. I get this magazine full of like naked, bloody chicks and black metal. And that's the first time I heard of like the murder of Euronymous. And I was like, what? I was like, these people are killing each other? I couldn't believe it, but it just opened a whole new world to me. And it's changed me ever since, and that's really how that's how I really discovered extreme music from the writer of that magazine, who's still kind of a local guy around here. You see him around shows and stuff, when they were shows, I mean. But yeah, that's like kind of my first example of learning about a metal zine, but changed me forever, It brought me here. It really did. So
Well, maybe the younger generation are reading metal blogs and having similar.
yeah,
Probably just on Twitter.
Yeah,
knowing everything at the speed of light.
Yeah, who makes a zine these days? I don't know. Like, who's going to continue to do that?
There's a couple of them.
I can imagine there's still people, with like, making them on Xerox copies. You know how they used to do? They used to like print them on Xerox copies and stuff.
Maybe we should start doing
I don't know. We'll make tapes too.
We'll start our tape label.
We'll make cassette tapes too while we're at it.
There you go. And I know there's some distros and labels that'll still make them and send them out and they'll have like interviews. Like I've got a couple of Xerox ones that you just get with an order. I always take the time to go through those though, because I'm like, well, at least I don't have to look at a screen to read this.
Right. You have a thing in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Something about having a piece
copy.
of something, yeah, that's, I think that's why like records and tapes sell, because it's a thing, it's not media on a computer. It's a thing with artwork on it. That's why it's merch,
So anything you're looking forward to for 2021?
There's a couple albums. I know just earlier today, Skull Maggot. It's this. They're Finnish, just real old school, like real grimy death metal. They've been working on their album over the past year, and they just made the announcement today on Instagram. So pretty stoked for that one.
Something about Finland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like very not future focused. I was like living week to week with releases this year.
That's what I do half the time. I get promos, but that's just that's not the only place I look. Like,
you do? You go on Metal Archives, look at what came out today, and just go on down that list, because they do it every day.
This looks like a good one. Just roll a D20 and we're going to
go down. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Go some D&D talk. There you go. That's it. But yeah, that's one method.
I think all I can think about, other than like what you mentioned before, is new Bewitcher. I'm looking forward to.
Oh yeah, this guy's through it.
So yeah, excited about that. But yeah, so what is your long-term goal? You're going to be writing for Last Rites Forever? Do you have any grand plans?
That's a good question. Don't ask me about the future. You're talking day to day. But yeah, I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. We're all really good friends, and it's really kind of like a little place I can get away to too sometimes. Just miss seeing them this year. We usually meet up at NDF every year, and 2020, man.
Sucks. The reason I got into reviewing was actually just because I really love going to live music, and what better way to know about who might be touring than just keeping track of new releases, because that's who's touring. And yeah. I realized that, by the way, this year I'm like, wow, I'm really following, new music just as heavily, but there's no shows.
There hasn't been one show. We were scheduled to go to so many shows this week, every single one of them. We were kind of hoping by the summertime, it's like, oh, we're going to go to Psycho, right? That's going to still go on. Nope. Not even close. Yeah. So
I feel your pain.
Yeah, everything. We lost everything.
Fate.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So. I swear, if Merciful Fate's not there next year, I don't know what I'll do.
That's why we bought. Like, we weren't going to go. We went last year. We weren't going to go, but then we saw Merciful. It's like, we have to go. The last time I saw Merciful Fate was in the 1990s. I brag to her all the time. I'm like, I used to see them in small clubs in the 1990s when they released like the Time album or something. They used to play in like New York City and stuff at these small clubs. And it was Merciful Fate. King Diamond's right there, and we were like, it's King Diamond, cool. Like today, it's like. It's massive. It's like he's playing the main stage on Psycho. It's like it's this legendary thing. It's where it's gone. It's funny.
That's why the world ended, is because Merciful Fate was going to play.
Yep.
So
yeah. I do hope we
couldn't have that.
I do hope
the Lord giveth and the Lord doth taketh
That's
away.
It. That's it.
I don't think I got anything though.
Yeah, we didn't get anything. You got to work from home.
Oh, I did get that. Yeah.
There you go. Just a few other releases that were coming up that I'm stoked for. Stunner, they're a little speed metal band out of Gainesville, Florida. Their debut is dumb as hell, and it's great, and it's just nonstop singing fun. And I've been looking forward to their follow-up since the last one came out, so I'm super stoked for that. Yeah, it's
Florida speed metal. I always have something to say about Florida.
Oh yeah.
It's the craziest place in the world. Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to discuss as far as like reviewing philosophy, or like I don't know if we went through that too fast because I was like, let's get this all in.
Oh, it's yeah, it's fun. It's something I do for fun. It's again just a fan, but it's a way to feel like I'm doing something as a fan and feel a little more active and involved. So even if it's only for selfish reasons, like.
Yeah, it's like, it's interesting. It's like we're hoping people enjoy it, but it really is for us.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care if no one looks at it because I enjoy doing it. I hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, we got into this. Like, I started doing this podcast because I was so miserable at work. Like, there was a point where I was so miserable at work, I needed something else to do. So I was like, I'm going to talk about, it started with like metal history. I would talk about like, events in metal history. It wasn't even like reviewing back then. And it was only on Spotify back then. And I would just talk about like what Aleister Crowley did for metal or something. Like I would like make stupid episodes like that, or like the Satanic Panic. I would do things, and I would make playlists too. And that's what it was back. That's all it was. It was just me doing it. And I would just like talk stupid crap into a microphone, like just stupid, pointless shit that no one would listen to. And it only started getting bigger when Sam joined and we started doing music reviews. That was, I think, our best turn, because
I don't know if that's true.
Well, the music, we'd always kind of change our format constantly, but the music reviews seem to be the most successful.
No, we would do it like a non-content like clip of you, and you say 1 second sentence that's like shit talking Florida, and that gets like 3,000 views.
Yeah, well, sometimes, yeah. Well, we got an occasional news. We would do like these news episodes.
That seems more successful.
Well, yeah, but for a bad reason though. It was like hate watching. Like, for example, we did our most popular video is just a piece on an article about Pat O'Brien. And he got into some trouble like in Florida because he had guns and skulls and shit like that. And I was just making fun of it. I was like, look, Florida, this is what happens in Florida. And people got kind of like, people got mad at it. I was just reading the article and I don't know. But those are our most successful videos. People being mad at me and calling me, they call me a communist and this and that and the other thing. And I'm beta and I'm gay.
Welcome to the internet. Let me be your guide.
Yeah, I'm used to it. It's like, that's what you're going to get. So I didn't mean to offend anyone. But
never had negative comments on the reviews.
The reviews, people love them. They either like them or they don't comment on them.
That's a success.
Yes. So they're good. They're stable. They're and we get reviews. We get feedback from the bands as well. So that's the most important thing, that the bands are looking at them and they're saying they appreciate them. So that's the most important thing.
Is it?
Yeah, to reach out to the bands. I think that's most important to me. I like the bands are seeing them. Is that selfish? Like, oh, I hope the bands are watching. Like, I don't care if people.
That's always great.
I want people to watch.
Yeah, people.
Yeah,
it's cool when
I want somebody to find the band because of something.
You're doing it for far more philanthropy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's always great. Like, sometimes bands will reach out and be like, hey, I read this, or I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it makes you feel good.
Yeah, it's a fun way to, get a little closer to the community, I guess. It's like trying to move a step up from fan. Like, I'm extra fan. I read this, nice. So I created
we had Sirith Ungol share our staff list on Instagram, and I'm not gonna lie, total fangirl moment.
Yes, right. That's just something like Sirith Ungol. I mean, that's probably like the biggest. That's probably like the biggest band on your list, right? It's probably Sirith Ungol, right? I would think.
Yeah, probably.
I think they're the most well-established band.
I think it was on ours too.
Yeah. Probably.
I don't know. Maybe Gulch is bigger.
Yeah, I'm Gulch and Midnight right now, but but Sirith Ungol, historic band, a lot of street credit there.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, you put them at number one. It's a strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a comeback record, and like the way I was thinking of it was, okay, I have personal attachment to it. It definitely has that kind of like, oh, they're back feel to it, but is it really that good? And I was like, well, would I be ashamed to go up to somebody and be like, this is my favorite Sirith Ungol record? And I wouldn't. I don't know if I'm willing to say that right now, but I wouldn't be like, oh, like the new one's my favorite, or it kills. It's just so good, and it's
one of those situations where the band just picked up where they left off. It's not like some old band making its new album with this new sound. It's like they just kind of picked it up, which is very impressive that they're able to do that.
And I think it's Baker's most successful vocals. Like he definitely sounds like he still has the shriek to it, but it feels a little more refined and
it's grown up a little.
If somebody's like, oh, I don't like Frost and Fire because of the vocals or whatever, be like, well, maybe try the new one and see if you can kind of dip a toe into the waters a little bit more.
Sirathangle's a consistent band. They're just very consistent. Their artwork, from their artwork to their sound, it's always been very
Michael
consistent.
Whalen.
It's just consistency.
That's another thing. There were a lot of bands that came back this year, or put out their first album after like demos in the '80s or whatever.
Right.
Glacier was a good one.
I liked Glacier. I like this other band, Tyrant. Metal. I like them as well. Another old man band came back.
That's been
what was the Canadian one? Witch Hammer. The Canadians, they had the giant speed metal logo like crashing into the planet.
Oh yes, I saw that.
That album rips, and it sounded like they'd still been listening to metal since their demos left off, and they were like, oh yeah, all this like war metal stuff rules, let's throw that into the mix. Right. It's like a speed war metal album.
Well, I welcome all these old men coming back.
It's kind great. I think I feel like sort of like Pentagram kind of launched that. I could be wrong about that one, but
that was so long ago.
Yeah, it was like 20 years ago, right? But I feel like they kind of got the ball rolling on these like old guys being like, "Hey, we need to make an album again."
If you look at that, that's right there in that time when the internet's taking off, so people are finding all these obscure.
That's why people who wanted to dig up these bands, so there's a lot of demand for them. Yeah,
right. Like when Manila Road came back, and
Oh, one more question on lists. Just like, I feel like the past 2 years, like, I'm always like, maybe I won't do a top 20. I'm going to make all these weird categories and just like have it more of like a broad thing than like an up and down. Mm-hmm. Like, are you constrained on your list? Do you have to do a top 20 or like, you ever thought about getting
pretty sure? I'm pretty sure we can do whatever we want on our lists. The way we structure them though is we all do votes for the staff list, and then I think we all kind of tweak our lists a little bit afterwards, but I know I do. But it fits with the voting structure. But again, if I wanted to do like, oh, these are the best black metal albums, these are the best death metal albums, whatever, I'm sure they let me do that, but I need this like constraint to work in, or I'm just going to go off the rails. And I could just see that getting out of hand really quick. Some people do it, and it's awesome, and it's great. I need just like singular.
Yeah, like for me, it'd be like best death metal, best weird black metal, because I don't listen to normal black metal. Best, 2 different versions of best heavy metal or something. Like it never ends up making sense, but I try to do it, each time, and I just end up going 1 to 20. So.
My personal list, last year I did my 20 albums, my EPs and demos and all that stuff, and then afterwards a lot of the staff does non-metal stuff. I don't listen to enough non-metal to I do listen to stuff that isn't metal, but it's not usually stuff that's new. So I never feel like I have enough for it. So last year I just said, these are like the best 10 traditional metal albums, because I feel like it was a great traditional metal year. I was like, okay, these are the ones you should check out that didn't make the main list. This year I did metal adjacent, so stuff that's like Witch Hazel and Freeways, where it's like, okay, this is kind of like more in the proto metal vibe, mm-hmm. or something that kind of goes through the metal PR channels or metal fans would like. Yes. It's like, okay, this is the stuff that's metal, but it's.
What's interesting is I put Aranzi Brazuzu, that album, into my non-metal list.
I easily could have done that and strongly considered doing it, actually.
Yeah, there's metal adjacent bands, like bands like Horizon or Uncle Acid, good bands, but not really metal. Hollis. They're kind of the big thing right now. Yeah.
My number one on my metal adjacent list.
A lot of them are from Sweden.
Of the 4 on my metal adjacent list, it's number 1.
So many of them are from Sweden. What's going on?
They're just all going in like this retro rock.
Retro rock, yeah.
Yeah, they're they're already done with the old like Nawablam and like heavy metal revival. They're like, no, we got to go even further back.
Yes, yeah. It's like a religion over there in Sweden, man.
Yes, Steve did a podcast episode back in the day called Bjorn Too Late.
Bjorn Too Late. It was a playlist podcast. It's about all these Swedish metal adjacent bands that are doing that sound, because they either like sound like Thin Lizzy or Scorpions or UFO. They all kind of are doing that that classic rock sound.
Bjorn Too Late, and I'll never
Bjorn
Swede like you.
Bjorn Too Late. I always had to come up with a catchy name back then. I always had to come up with a title.
Yeah, no, that's great. Half the fun I have is naming. Like if I do a feature or something like that, that's not just a regular review. It's just coming up with a really dumb title. Or
anything else you want to know about us, or?
I found the podcast maybe a month or two ago, and a lot of times I'll just throw it on while I'm cooking dinner. So I'm just kind of.
I'm glad you found it at our newer videos and not our older videos.
I'll go back.
Find some of our news episodes that people hate.
I want to find the Florida rant.
Oh yeah, that's our most popular video.
Although I think a good moment was when he interviewed Rome, and they were talking about.
I watched that.
They've done a cassette release, and they're like, "I know you don't like cassettes."
Yeah, they knew. They watched my video. I was like, "Oh, you watched my
video?" Ranting about how he hates.
Yeah, I made a video of just not liking cassettes, because I don't like cassettes, because I lived with them and I don't like them.
I lived with them. I like cassettes.
They're coming back.
I love cassettes.
They're coming back against my will. There's nothing I can do about it. But, at least CDs aren't coming back. That's fine.
They'll never come back.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm good with that. That CDs never come back.
Don't listen to him.
They hear me. They hear me.
I know. Are you a big CD guy? Your main format?
It's weird. I've been cutting back a little bit on vinyl, just because it's so expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
I'm like, like my albums of the year, and then mostly I've been trying to get a lot more classics on vinyl. But,
it also weighs a lot.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of space.
It does, yes.
But I alternate a lot of times between CDs and cassettes. A lot of times it just depends on what's available.
Yeah.
But I like to have something physical.
So yeah, thank you for being a guest on the Here Lies Metal podcast, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
So
yes,
you check out the list. It'll already be published by the time this goes up. It's going to be on yourlastrights.com.
Your last rights.
We'll be sure to include a link in the description.
Yes. But all right, Ryan. So I guess we'll let you go. But yeah, it's very nice talking to you, Ryan.
Thanks
thank you so much. It was a blast.
So hopefully we'll talk to you again, Ryan. We'll track you. We will watch you.
Yeah,
so,
likewise.
Thank you. Take care. Good night, Ryan.
Good night.
Have a good Christmas.
Good night. Hey, you too.